One of the major challenges in public policy is to assess the impact on those policies on citizens. At Whitehall, we call this the absorption level, the ability of citizens to absorb a policy and not just to agree or not agree, but simply to understand it. This challenge is actually an opportunity. Over the past 10,000 years, we have moved from the age of a factor of production that was land, to a factor of production that was labor, to a factor of production that was capital. And in effect, public policy has remained in the age of capital. We use as metrics the GDP, the balance of payments, which are very much accounting standards. But we have now moved to the age of data, where the individual, and maybe not the economist, is at the center. And that is a great opportunity to understand, using data, the level of absorption of citizen. Now, what does this mean concretely? What I'm going to draw here is, on one axis, the level of influence that exists between policies. On the other axis, I look at the dependency between different policies. Think, if you have an education policy, it's going to have an influence on a number of other policies. And the other policies have dependencies on education. It works both ways. Now assume you put all public policies and you look at it over a period of 20 years across all countries. Well, the curve looks pretty much like this. You see at the end almost an experienced glass ceiling between the dependencies between policies and the influence that they have among each other. Practically talking, you're going to have maybe here fiscal policies, you're going to have education policies. But when it comes to environment, for example, it's influenced by many policies and dependent on many policies. And somehow, we're not able to break through this experienced glass ceiling. Now, that is because on the other side, you have us, individuals. And our ability to absorb those policies, to understand them, not to agree or not agree, but simply to understand them. Now, to go behind this, we have to understand what is this equation that actually allows us to understand the level of absorption in a certain policy. Let's take as an example an objective, a development objective. We can call it the normative one, the Sustainable Development Goals. And let's call this D. Now, the D, which is the north, which is not GDP, which is not balance of payments, we're in the age of data, is going to be a factor of the level of energy that any policymaker, any government, any public authority is going to put in place. That energy is a factor of the different public policies that are going to be put in place, the trust in the leadership that exists in a certain community, the efficiency of the administration, and the type of narrative which is being put forward. We call this the plan. Now, this has always happened. What we're adding here to the picture to go beyond that policy experience curve is understanding quantum, meaning us, the lowest unit in quantum physics. And quantum, us, is a factor of the individual, that is our social capital, our economic capital, our cultural capital. We're all different. And the community, the myth, the language, the codes, everything which is intangible, which is not easily quantifiable. Now, if you're able to quantify this and solve for the X, which is this part, then you get a measure of how much energy is being put by a certain government and how much absorption you get as an individual, as quantum. And this balance is what matters. This balance is what we at Whitehall are working on to improve the life of citizens. You will hear more about this topic in our next talk, where we'll be covering the periodic table of public policies.